Hello everyone and welcome to my video making tutorial. I'm so glad you dropped by today. We'll be making a crinkle heart Valentine. I can't wait to show this to you. This is it. It's got a little texture, a little pop there. I'll show you how this was made. I'll be using this heart die, some distress ink and antique linen, as well as a paper from this wonderful 6x6 paper pad from Hobby Lobby. This is vintage Valentine, so cute. A lace embossing folder from Park Lane. So you are more than welcome to recreate this using the method that I used, but if you don't have a die machine, you can certainly cut out your own heart. You don't have to use the embossing folder. You don't have to use the distress ink. Just use what supplies you have and you can easily recreate this card and it will be all your own. So I love that about trying to come up with new innovative ways to create a card even if you don't have some of these supplies. Just use what you have. Look at these papers. I can tell I'm going to be using this paper pad again because so many of these are just lovely papers. So let's jump into the card making. I'm going to select this piece of striped paper that has a little lacy stuff going on across it, which is why I chose this lace embossing folder. And I'll show you what I'm going to do with that later. So you can see that this heart die will fit pretty good on this cream colored scrap of paper I have. And this is the fun part, giving it some wrinkles and crinkles. So again, this is cardstock. You could use lighter weight paper if you want. I think it would work just the same. I'm just going to wad this up quite a few times. You can see some of my edges are giving a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to cut this out so I am not concerned about those little tears. When I think I've got this crinkled up enough, I will lay it out here and take a look. That's looking pretty good. So the next thing I want to do to accentuate those crinkles is to bring over that antique linen distress ink. And what I'm going to do with that is just bring over a little scrap of paper here and I'm going to simply swipe the whole ink pad across the crinkles. Now you can see I am not using very much pressure. It's a very light touch here. You only want to accentuate the crinkles. You don't really want to get in between there. And you can see how this is coming out. And I think this is going to go very well with the colors in my background paper. There you go. There's a closer up look there on the crinkled paper with the distress ink accentuating that. And then I will place my heart on the parts that I want to cut out and I will tape those down and run that through my die cutting machine. So I did that off camera so you don't have to watch that whole process. I'll remove the heart here and give you a close-up look on the results. So you could stop right here with the heart if you want to. You don't have to do this next step with the embossing machine, but if you've got it, you might as well add a little more texture. So this works out very well since I accentuated the crinkles. When I run this through this texture boutique, it does not really flatten my paper. So I'm going to end up with multiple dimensions here, the crinkles and the embossing folder detail. And just look how beautiful this comes out. I hope you can see the lace embossing on this. What a wonderful little heart for the front of our card. So my card base is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. You can see the heart will fit on there perfectly. And then I cut a mat out of my patterned paper. The mat is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. If you're ever interested in the dimensions and the supplies that I've used, you can hop on over to my blog at www.vintagehillstudio.com. I have all of those listed there for you if you so choose to get the dimensions or print out the little tutorial. So the next thing I want to do is I decided to go around the edge with that same antique linen. I'm using a very light touch on this as well. What this will do is kind of tie together my mat and the crinkle heart. So I'm just adding this little touch here. Doesn't take very long. I'll get my mat put down on the front of my card and we'll be ready to call this card done. This goes together so quickly. Now, one of the tips I like to share with you when matting a card onto my card front is I kind of line up all four corners from the mat to the card, and that works out well for me almost every time. You can see that came out pretty good there. I'm going to add a little bit of foam tape to the back of this crinkle heart just for a little added dimension on the front and to lift that off of that patterned paper. And then I like to take just a few dots of liquid glue and I go over that foam tape. You don't have to do this, but when I'm trying to align something vertically and horizontally centered, I like to give myself a little leeway with this liquid adhesive, because what happens is it allows me to make some minor adjustments and slide this heart around should I need to. See, I'm going to use my grid mat again here and look at 2 3/4 to center that from the top of the heart down to the point there. And I can make slight adjustments because I've used a little liquid glue before I give this good adhesion onto the front of my card. There we go. One of the last things I'm going to do is add a little ribbon just to give this a nice finishing touch at the top of my heart. And you can see how quickly this goes together, and also again that if you don't have a die and you don't have an embossing folder, you can still make this card. I mean, I think the background paper speaks for itself, so just pick something you like, give yourself a little crinkled up heart and give it a go. I like this method because I haven't seen it on other cards, so I tried to come up with something new, and I like the way this came out. It's simple, yet it has a lot of texture and detail to it. Just a little bit of foam tape, the crinkles, the distress ink. It didn't take very much in line of supplies to get this card done. So I hope you get inspired to look around and try a few things that you may have on hand, and if you want to recreate this card, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much for dropping by. I am so thankful to all of my subscribers. Thanks for dropping by, leaving me comments. I love to hear from you. I'd like to see some of the things you have going or hear what you've got planned. I just love that. If you're new to the channel, I invite you to become a subscriber. I post weekly videos, and I hope to inspire you and get your creativity going. And that's what we're here for each other for. So thank you again for dropping by, and I hope to see you again next week. Happy crafting, everyone!